with your hosts, Andrew Romanella.
I don't think I'm good enough in this spot based on my own personal mental health, so I can't continue. The first problem is with the owner of the Carolina Panthers, okay? You're an idiot. Seriously, you're an idiot. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of The Rome Show here on 12OZsports.com. Broadcast live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I am your host, Andrew Romanella. I am with you for the next 30 minutes. We will be joined by our every Tuesday guest, Mr. Rocky Romanella, the resident hockey player, to talk about a devastating Game 5 loss for the New York Rangers, a huge Game 4 victory on the road for the Dallas Stars, some suspensions in the National Hockey League, and so much more as we get down to the final 3 to 4 games in each series of round 2 of the National League Hockey playoffs. Before we do any of it, we remind you, you got to get us on the social media, The Rome Show 1. Instagram and Twitter. If you want to go to Facebook, you can go to my personal Andrew Romanella and comment on all of the stuff, or you can go to Wide World Shop. Either way, we want to hear your opinions. Okay, so since Rocky's going to join us in 5 minutes, we're going to go straight. Nice. Finally, I didn't hit the chimes on that one. Let's start in Boston, okay, as the Boston Celtics defeated the Cleveland Cavaliers by a score of 109 to 102. Cleveland went on like a 15-4 run late in the fourth quarter here, but Boston was able to hold off. Jaylen Brown hit a huge three-pointer late in the game. Actually, it was kind of funny. Jaylen Brown hit the three-pointer, and then Jason Tatum was so fired up, what he called was left hooked him, and he really did. He punched him in the chest. Nonetheless, the two stars for the Boston Celtics, Tatum, he went 11 for 25 from the field, 33 points and 11 rebounds. Jaylen Brown, 27 points and 8 rebounds, and the Boston Celtics head home for Game 5 with a 3-1 series lead. The Boston Celtics, to me, are like that kid that plays with their food. You know, when people are like, don't play with your food, right? That's what the Celtics are. Because I think if Boston played the game that they should be playing mentally, physically, and emotionally every single night, based on the two teams they've played so far, the Miami Heat and the Cleveland Cavaliers, I don't think they would have lost a game based on their talent and how good they are. But needless to say, they've lost a game in each series, and I just think that I said it last week too, it's cause for concern with the Celtics when they play a better team. The cause for concern for the Cleveland Cavaliers is that Donovan Mitchell did not play in this game. And think about that. Donovan Mitchell did not play in this game with a strained calf, and yet there was a serious chance for the Cavs to win this game thanks to Darius Garland, who had 30 on 12 of 27 from the field. So that game, two days away from game number 5 there in Boston. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and guess the Celtics close up that series. We continue. What a comeback for the Oklahoma City Thunder last night, led by their MVP and possibly could have been the league's MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 34 points and 8 rebounds, 8 assists, but the more important stat for me from SGA was that in the final 30 points scored by the Oklahoma City Thunder, which included outscoring the Mavs by 8 points in the fourth quarter and by 7 points in the third quarter, so 15 points overall in the second half to win this game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he assisted or scored on 20 of the final 30 points for the Oklahoma City Thunder. On top of that, he collected 10 points and 4 assists in the fourth quarter. The problem for the Mavericks is their two best players and the free throw line. The Mavs were 12 for 23 at the free throw line throughout this game. That's not going to get it done, including really bad missed free throw with 10 seconds left by Luka Doncic to have a chance to tie the game. And then on top of that, Luka and Kyrie not scoring the basketball to what needs to happen for this Dallas Mavericks team if they want to contend in this series. Last night, Doncic had 18 points. He only made 6 field goals. He actually turned the ball over 7 times comparative to his 6 field goals. So not a good night for Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving, who for the second time in this series had only 9 points and made 4 field goals. The really illuminating stat is in the postseason, Luka and Kyrie are averaging 37 points per game combined. That is just slightly under their 59.5 point average from the regular season. Yeah, you heard that correctly. In the postseason, Luka and Kyrie, 22.5 points less than their regular season scoring average. That series is tied 2-2, and I think that is the most exciting series we are watching in basketball alongside the Knicks and the Pacers. We move to the National Hockey League to get you set up for a one Rocky Romanella to call us shortly. I mentioned both games earlier. Let's give you the deets. The Hurricanes, 4 unanswered goals in the third period. 4 unanswered goals in the third period to win 4-1 on Madison Square Garden ice. And now Carolina goes home having won the last 2. Okay, the last one at MSG. And now they go home to arguably, I would say, probably one of the hardest barns to play at in the National Hockey League. Barn, another word for rink. Get up on your hockey terminology. So Carolina has seriously pushed the needle on this series. And now, if you're a Rangers fan that was feeling all so good about that 3-0 series lead, just like that, you got the Carolina Hurricanes saying, hold on just a second. We also won 52 games this year, and we were really freaking good, and they've shown that. And Carolina has shown that. And here's the other thing. And I was looking up these stats last night. Carolina was like 14 games over 500 on the road or something like that. 12 or 14, something in that number. Like, that's impressive. And oftentimes, we talk a lot about teams having home ice, home court, home field, whatever. Well, when you're playing this Carolina team, they have like the best of both worlds. So if there is a team, my brother doesn't want to hear me say this. My dad probably doesn't want to hear me say this either. But if there is a team that is probably equipped to win 4 straight games after being down 3-0 in a series, I mean, my belief would have to be that team is the Carolina Hurricanes, because they are so good on the road. And as I mentioned earlier, Carolina has arguably has, I don't know, the best home team or home ice advantage in the National Hockey League. So either way, right? Either way, this is now a very, very interesting series. Last night, Jury had 2 assists. He was great. He was great. We had Kuznetsov with a goal, Martinuk with a goal, and Nekas with a goal. And then Jordan Stahl scored his first goal of the postseason. So not only did Carolina score 4 unanswered in the third period, but on top of that, Jordan Stahl scored his first goal of the postseason, which not necessarily a goal scorer guy has the ability to, especially on this Carolina team. But when that starts to happen, that means things are falling in the right direction for the Carolina Hurricanes. So now it's 3-2 in that series. And here's the thing, if you're the Rangers, like, not that I think that there is an adjustment you need to make, because the problem is for the Rangers, you have held one of the best power plays down for nearly the entire series. Like, coming into this game, outside of the Game 4 third period power play goal that gave Carolina the victory in Game 4 at home, right? The New York Rangers were 17 for 17 on the penalty kill leading into that power play, Okay. And this Carolina team came into the postseason knowing that their power play was a strong suit for them. So what has now happened is one of the main advantages of the Rangers that was probably, I mean, think about 17 in 4 games. That's a lot of kill. So if you're the Rangers, you're like, dude, this is our strong suit. If you're Carolina, you finally break through in that power play goal in the 4th game. Okay. Then you go scoreless in the first 2 periods of game 5 and then score 4 in the 3rd against arguably one of the best goalies in the postseason remaining. You've really gained the momentum. And what do the Rangers do now? Right? What's the regroup for the Rangers? Because I don't think it's taking the goaltender out, right? And I don't know how much line shifting you can do, right? So at the end of the day, it's really just grit time for the Rangers now. Because you're going back to Carolina. You have to figure out how to got to figure out how to bounce back here, because the last thing you want / at all can happen is if you go to a game 7. Because I think if you go to a game 7 in this series, I feel like no matter what, it's gonna go to the Carolina Hurricanes. If it doesn't go to the Carolina Hurricanes, then I would be super surprised, because I just feel like, and I think we've seen it across the course of time, right? With any sports series that has a team coming back from anything, right? Think about the Indiana Pacers right now versus the New York Knicks, okay? You got the Pacers, who were down 2-0, going home. All right. And I've said this multiple times, and it's probably true. It is a cliche, but my high school English teacher used to say cliches are cliches for a reason. And that's because they are true. Okay. And so you got Indiana going home, and they feel confident at home. And then all of a sudden, bam, bam, they rattle off 2 victories. And now everyone, right? Everyone's like, oh, okay, how about we think now, I don't know what's going to happen with the Knicks, blah, 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 whatever. And you're like, all right, is that just because Indiana won the last 2? But they won the last 2 at home. And going into Indiana, we were all saying that, oh, well, the series hasn't started till you lost 1 at home. Well, neither team has lost 1 at home. So from my vantage point, when you look at that series, you're like, dude, if you think about it, all the Knicks need to do is hold serve on their home floor. And at the end of the day, it still might go 7, but you win the series. Whereas when you flip to the Rangers and the Hurricanes, the scary part about this series is the Hurricanes have now beat you at home and on the road. And because of the way the series works and the Rangers having home ice advantage, you're like, all right, well, we're still up and we still have game 7 at our barn. Yeah, but the last thing you want to do is go into that game 7 having lost 3 straight. It's different going into a game 7 where it's like this team wins 2, that team wins 2, each team wins 1 and 1, and then we go to game 7. And I feel that same way about game 5 with the Knicks tonight. It's like, are we confident in the Knicks? I know they're home, but usually we give momentum on the side of the team that's won the multiples. Without further ado, let's bring Rocky Romanella in because I got to get his opinion on this Rangers thing. And so you know what time it is? It's time for Hockey with Rocky. Now, inside the glass, Hockey with Rocky.
Good morning, everyone. We're inside the glass. I'm Rocky. What's up?
What's going on, man? How we doing?
We're doing great. We're doing great. We're unlike all of the haters and the people freaking out right now. We're feeling great right now.
I like that. So why don't you start there and tell us why you're feeling great and you're not feeling like the haters?
Well, if you were a listener last week, you would have heard me talk about how there is not a Stanley Cup champion who doesn't face adversity at some point or multiple points throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. It just has to happen. And so this is a little bit of adversity for the Rangers. No big deal, by the way. The adversity that they're facing still has them in the lead, in control of the series. Not to mention, they are also the same team that had over 34 comeback victories during the regular season on their way to the President's Trophy. So they are a resilient group of people. That's why I'm so confident.
So what do the Rangers have to do, Rocky, to close out this series? Because not too long ago, I mean, actually, let's put it this way, man. We were 63 minutes away. If we go back 63 minutes on this series, the Rangers are tied 3-3 with 3 minutes left in Carolina, and they're about to sweep the series. So how now, in 63 minutes of hockey, has it gone from Rangers up 3-0 to Carolina down 3-2?
I love how much it changes because, by the way, up until the start of the third period last night, you would argue that that Carolina was not going to do what they did in the third period, considering how, even though the Rangers didn't have a lot of shots in the second period, they were great defensively for the most part, in preventing, some high quality chances. So listen, they're the second best team in the league. Like it's not like this is like some series between a 1 and an 8 who snuck into the playoffs. Carolina was the second best hockey team in the entire NHL. One win and a tie is the only thing that separated them and the Rangers from the President's Trophy. If you didn't expect to see a push from Carolina, then you don't know sports.
I agree, and I actually said that to open the show, Rocky. I said, at the end of the day, this Carolina team not only is one of the best in hockey, but they also have one of the best road records in the league. So for the Rangers to have almost had them to a point where they didn't even sniff winning a game on the road, and then to be able to, if you really do think about it, to take a game in Carolina, which I believe is one of the hardest places to play in the National Hockey League, it's pretty impressive. And at the end of the day, you win Game 6, Rock. Do we even really care that they lost to 2? Probably not. It's really just not allowing this thing to go to Game 7.
No, and I think there's two things that I think are at play here. The first is in Carolina, that team is ridden like just full of free agents. I mean, if you're a player on that team, and any one of the staple guys that have been there for a long time and have had a strong career, like, I'm sorry, but like that team is not going to be the same next year. There's too many free agents. The money's not right. Their coach is a free agent. Like there's just so many factors. So like you've got to take into account not only the psyche of, by the way, that was their first win on Madison Square Garden ice in the playoffs in, I don't know, 4, 5 years. Because the last 3 series, one was played on neutral ground during COVID, so that doesn't count. The last time they played a series went 7, and the home team won every game except the Rangers when they won 7 in Carolina. They lost their first 2 here, so they were just on a 5-game losing streak in Madison Square Garden going into the last game. Like, law of large numbers, they're a great team. And, oh, by the way, like the psyche that says, I want to be with these guys for one more game is playing into it. It's going to give them a little boost, right? So that's on the Carolina side. On the Rangers side, I think it's time to go showcase your depth. Like Eric Gustafsson on defense has had 2 bad games. You got to take him out. You got to put a youthful, speedy forward and Zach Jones in. Pair him with Trouba the same way you paired Miller with Trouba back in the day. So I would put Zach Jones in, and I'd be looking at Blake Wheeler, who just came back from a strong injury. I'd be looking at Filipino getting back in the lineup, and I'd be looking at Johnny Brzezinski getting back in the lineup. And I would even jumble around maybe for a period. I don't think he's going to do it, but like even like the top line, maybe get Alexi Lafreniere, a couple more shifts with Panarin and Zibanejad, but just showcase the Rangers' ability to be deep. And I think that'll be a big boost for them in Game 6.
I think that's a great point. Let's shift series now. Let's head over to the Western side because last night Dallas took a 3-1 lead over Colorado in Colorado. And I'm not going to lie, Rocky, I thought, and I think there's some bias here. It's like the way the playoffs start for a team kind of gets you feeling one way or the other. I know Dallas didn't have a hot start to this playoffs necessarily. It's kind of been interesting for them. It's like score a lot of goals, sometimes give up a lot of goals. It's like you kind of don't know what team to expect. But at the end of the day, against one of the best teams coming into this postseason in the Colorado Avalanche, the Dallas Stars have a 3-1 series lead, and they're headed home. I think they can close up shop on that series, but Colorado, I feel like, kind of mirrors what you just said about this Hurricanes team, which is like, yeah, but they are that good, and we all should not be surprised if they did win the next two, and this also goes Game 7.
Yeah, no doubt. I think in this round, what we're starting to see across the board is really what we saw in the regular season. You know, when it comes to Dallas, it was really like, wow, this could be this looks like the Dallas team. You know, you've got three aging veterans that have never won, and Pavelski and I can't think of the other guys right now, just because I want to go quickly. We'll get started late. But like even Tyler Sagan, who's been there for a while, right? You're getting strong performance from Jake Oettinger in net. Like, you've got a team that in the regular season, people were like, this is the best Dallas team we've seen. And so you didn't really see it in the first round. They showcased their resiliency a little bit to a team that's had their number in Vegas. So, okay, that's great. And you're really kind of starting to see that play. And from an Avalanche standpoint, right, hey, they weren't the best team in the regular season. They weren't the worst team. They were the Avalanche. And, you know, for me, I was like, well, this is the team that you should see a push. I think you're going to see a push here in game 5. But, you know, ultimately, you know, everyone's kind of becoming who they were. Even the Bruins, in the same respect. I put the Bruins and the Avalanche in the same category. Like, hey, you guys should be really good, and you've got the talent, and you've got the firepower, but you both find yourselves down 3-1. And that's kind of how we felt about you all regular season. Like, is it the year? Is it the year? I don't know, you know?
Yeah, and in terms of the Bruins, I feel like sometimes they're like that team that starts worrying about the other team and the officials too much and starts forgetting, like, yo, you guys are really good. Like, if you just played hockey, you guys would be really good all the time. That to me is the Boston Bruins.
No doubt. And it doesn't help, you know, that, you know, Marchand got hurt and all that and whatever. But I think Colorado, it's crazy to think, you know, and there was a commentary about it last night was, you know, Nathan McKinnon maybe not putting up as many points as he typically does per game in the playoffs compared to the regular season, and really kind of needing him to get in the regular season form in the playoffs. And you know, and that take alone kind of tells you where the Avalanche team is at. Like, wow, I've got to continue to rely on this guy to go over a point per game, which, again, we see it on the best teams. They've got those guys, even in the playoffs. But if that's where you're looking, whereas, you know, think about it. I just said the Rangers need to go showcase their depth. I'm not, and by the way, does Panarin need to play better? Yeah, he's had his 2 worst games of the playoffs. But, like, I'm not going to sit here and put the win on Panarin's shoulders, right? For me, I think that the win comes on the depth, right? Like, same with Colorado. Like, is the Alexander Georgiev the depth and goaltender and the starting goaltender that you need to backstop this comeback? And can I get a fourth liner to score a goal?
Yeah, and I think that's something that we've talked about a lot with these teams. When the fourth line shows up, especially in the postseason, it's different hockey, and it's a lot easier, you know. And you're right about Georgiev, because at the end of the day, you need a hot goalie, man. And we've seen that with some other teams where, I think you mentioned it. Was it Carolina or somebody else? You're like, that was already their move. They made their goalie switch, so they've used their little, okay, maybe. So I don't know if that's the move for Colorado, but it's interesting because you got Georgiev to be that guy in this moment.
Yeah, no, you have him, and he wasn't the guy that won the cup. He has backstopped you to 2 good regular seasons. Tragic loss round 1 last year, and is this going to be a tragic second round loss this year? Where, hey, he's a serviceable starter in the National Hockey League, but he's not a Stanley Cup champion. And that is a big distinction. I mean, think about someone like Henrik Lundqvist. We talk about him a lot, but that's a Hall of Famer who couldn't win a cup. So, and by the way, the other 2 guys I was thinking about on top of Joe Pavelski was Matt Duchene and Jamie Benn are the 2 the other veteran guys that were just escaping me, and I felt bad that I didn't have that on top of my brain.
Very nice. Good hockey memory out of you there. All right, so I know you come onto the show with a list of topics. We got like 5 left here. Go ahead and start running through those.
So what do you have something? Did I send you 5 topics? Because right now I want to talk about face-offs.
Go ahead.
Okay. Like if you're going to watch a game, I want you to pay attention to the face off. And I think that that's been a huge element in Carolina's comeback to the Rangers, right? Like it's been a comeback over really through, you talked about it. It's really been a comeback over 3 games to really kind of turn the tide of the series. And to me, it started when they started beating Trocheck on faceoff, right? In game 3, the game actually, the game that he won, right, is the game that you saw a change. And then game 4, crazily and ironically enough, that's the game Trocheck gets knocked off his game. He's okay on faceoff, but that's really where he gets lost in like the mental side of the game within the game where he's playing his former team. And I thought that was even more showcased, last night. And as Trocheck struggles, like it's weird. Like you start to see a Panarin that looks a little bit like, like we've seen in the past. So, but to me, that all started with faceoffs, right? That's the number one faceoff guy in the league getting smoked, and it's I think it's altered his game. Now that's one side of the faceoff game I want people to pay attention to. The next side is on the power play and the penalty kill, right? Power play loses a faceoff, gets it iced. How many seconds does it take to get back in the zone? And like how many seconds, right? That could be anywhere between 10 to 30 seconds before you get back established. And how much of that time kind of changes the way the power play looks. So that face-off possession game, you saw a huge game out of Jordan Staal last night, great in the face-off circle. So I think face-offs is something I'd like the people to pay attention to.
Oh, that's a great point because, I mean, think about it. That in hockey is your opportunity to start controlling the puck. And every time you get a face-off, there's a little bit of a momentum swing there, but there's also so many parts of the ice where that faceoff can now dictate the next 3, 4, 5 minutes, or even just the next 45 seconds of your shift. And I think about all the time when you're talking about each player's role, right? Well, there's so many different roles, and you think about a guy, like you said, scoring the game-winning goal, but in game 3 was the worst probably face-off game he had all year, and it's like, wow, that's wild to think that in a game when he was the hero, it also started to turn the tide in the series. Yeah, I agree. And by the way, not easy face-offs, Rocky. So for the people at home, start to understand, watch the technique of it because it's a very interesting process between the two players and then the official.
And I like it. And then the next thing you do, you started to see a little bit of nastiness across. So the cross-check to Connor McDavid at the end of the game the other night, resulting in a suspension. You saw the Sam Bennett sucker punch to Brad Marchand that's put him, out of the game a little bit. I think, you saw Svechnikov take out Shesterkin a couple of games ago. And I just, some people are talking about the cheapness. Some people are talking, hey, that stuff happens all the time. Sometimes it results and people see it and people get injured, and sometimes it doesn't. What I will say is you've got to remember part of the history of hockey is if I can take out your best player, I have a better chance of winning.
Yeah, that's a fact. And what's crazy is I wrote down for the show today why I love the game of hockey is because in basketball, you watch Jamal Murray in game number 2 against the Minnesota Timberwolves throw his heating pad and some other whatever on the floor. And people were clamoring, like someone could have gotten hurt there. It's embarrassing. The dude should have been suspended, this, that, and the other thing, okay? Then you flip it over to hockey. Connor McDavid gets cross-checked from behind and then in the face. Dude gets suspended for game number 4. You have another guy who breaks the league's drug protocol and is a key clog for the Colorado Avalanche, and he gets suspended and then suspended for 6 months based on the league's protocol. My point is, hockey stays true to hockey no matter the game. Preseason, regular season, playoffs. Their commissioner's going to police it the same. Their referees, for the most part, are going to be the closest to the similarity of the regular season, and then on top of that, it will feel, for the most part, the most similar, and I think that is why hockey is so beautiful.
Yeah, no, I think I like that too, and I think what people are seeing, like if you're watching the game, I think there's probably a couple of times throughout each game, and this isn't privy to one series, I think it's in every series, where you'll see the stick checks and the hooks and the slashes get called very, very like online on brand with what you're seeing in the regular season. but then you'll see, a face wash and a punch to the face and a soft punch, or you'll see some stuff after the whistle. And you're like, how are those not penalties? Those are more physically brutal than, what I saw in that last penalty. And what you see is you start seeing where the referee you're seeing a commitment to keeping the game brand, the same. And also the respect factor of, hey, there's a physicality element to the game where you need to protect your goaltender, or you need to allow a little pushing and shoving after the whistle, and in reality, they're kind of weighing that fine line. Hey, the more I can give up in kind of these little scrums, probably the less likely I'm going to see someone throw a flying elbow to someone's head in the middle of the ice at full speed.
Yeah. And then you don't have to deal with what happened at the end of the Bruins Panthers, like game 2, right? Where it's like essentially a fight fest.
That's right. And you're what you get frustrated at is when they try and do too much. It's when, one doesn't equal the other. And it's like, hey, either call the game the way you want to call it, or police it the way you want to police it. But a lot of times, and I think we saw this a little bit in a few, again, I've seen it in a couple of series. You just mentioned the Bruins Panthers game the other night. But it's like they kind of get caught. Like, oh, I was trying to police it, but I policed the wrong thing. And then I wanted to, okay, so let me make it up. I'm going to look the other way on this one, but it was actually worse than the one I called a penalty on. And now you're like, now I got to make it up. So you just kind of get caught. But ultimately, I think that I like it too, because it's really their commitment to stay on brand from a refereeing standpoint.
I agree. Rocky, final thoughts today.
Final thoughts is, listen, I got a text last night from my neighbor. I wonder if he's listening. But, the text was something about the Rangers. Oh, worried about the Rangers. You want to know how I responded? I responded, take it easy, buddy. I didn't hear a word from you when we were 7-0. All right? Listen, it's the playoffs. Your game, the game in a regular season is the series. We're up 3-0. You gave up 2 goals. All right, let's regroup. Let's take a deep breath. Let's go dominate the series the way we know how. All right? All you haters, all you flip-floppers, the people that said Dallas was out of it and this isn't their year and all this other stuff, hey, check it out. Maybe it is their year. I hope it's not, but maybe it is, right? Same here with the Rangers. I'm not worried. Let's roll.
I love it. And tonight we have the Bruins at the Panthers, and we have the Canucks at the Oilers. We'll see if the Canucks can tie that. The Oilers can tie that series at 2-2. Man, we've been talking a lot about that team. We were a little delayed on the start of hockey with Rocky today, but at least we got the day right. Rock. We're back on Tuesdays, and that's very exciting stuff.
I love it. Pay attention to the FLA Panthers. They are really good.
They are really good. Hey, I think people forget they went to the Stanley Cup Finals last year.
They certainly did. So it's honestly scary how good they are right now.
That is
how good they look.
Dude, that's Rocky Roman. Give it up for Rocky. That's elite stuff out of him today on a Tuesday. Rock, by the time we get back next week, we're going to have a lot of answers to the National Hockey League. And whether you're sad or not, I think we're going to have a lot of fun in the conference finals.
You might have to stop by on a Friday this week, actually.
Hey, could be a possibility.
Talk to you later.
All right, man. Thanks. Rocky Romanella, everybody, resident hockey experts and resident hockey player on the Rome Show here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today to the Rome Show. We appreciate you always. Remember, get us on social media, the Rome Show 1, Instagram and Twitter. You missed some of this show. You might have, because we had some internet issues. Well, then, just watch the podcast wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify. I am Andrew Romanella saying peace. Till tomorrow.